Avatar: The Last Airbender isn't perfect. Before we start this ripping it to shreds video, there are a few things I want to address. I want to say first that I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's a series on Netflix that I watched overnight for really just one reason, and that was mostly because of the writing. In a regular show like this, there would be characters with certain destinies, with certain goals, and those characters achieve those goals whilst going through some bumps. In Avatar, the show challenges this and asks, what if the main hero understood that he needed to save the world, but his motivations for doing so are corrupted? Will he learn to control and save what he has now, or will he be consumed by guilt and ultimately fail? What if our main villain shares a lot in common with our main hero and believes that he is righteous in his goal? Instead of a villain having flawed motivations, what if his entire arc focuses on him realizing he has flawed motivations? What if everyone had a certain type of destiny or honorability to achieve that is flawed, and the ones that don't realize this in time may actually die? What if because of the whole question of teaching each other's honor and destiny and motivation leads to the characters being similar to one another when they're depicted as complete opposites?
You're just a child.
Well, you're just a teenager.
I have to regain my honor. You can't stop me, Zuko.
You need to regain your honor? Believe me, I get it.
This is a style of writing I like to call play-by-play. So with all that and villains that are voiced by Jason Isaacs and Mark Hamill, yeah, people love this show, obviously, and that's okay. The show has 61 episodes, and I enjoyed around 75% of those episodes. When we calculate how great these episodes are compared to Zuko alone, I would say I enjoyed roughly 50% of the show with those expectations. To be completely honest, the only reason I watched this show is so I could watch the movie. Yeah, you heard that right. My biggest complaint is that people treated this show back then as a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, when it's not that good. Back when the show was still making episodes, people were giving this show a perfect rating before even the best parts of it arrived. The show is just so easy to enjoy, and that's not a bad thing at all. But these problems I have with it, honestly, people are ignoring them. But if you ask me, this problem got a whole lot worse when M. Naughty Shyamalan made a movie about it. Because before the movie, we had reviews from IMDb, for example, that seemed pretty tame. But now we have people saying shit like this.
Everyone should watch this, and if you don't, you're a monster.
Now yeah, nostalgia is a very prominent role in all this, but this problem was so much worse when the movie was made. Fans needed a palate cleanser, and the show itself was perfect. And this is really evident by how famous this movie has become. If you're trying to tell me that the movie is not regularly talked about, I'd like to tell you that this movie is still regularly talked about. And I'd like to tell you that this movie has been out for an entire decade since its release.
And he's aided by a waterbender and Jasper from Twilight. Like I said, horrible acting.
It doesn't work at all. And I was just sitting there like, please, please, please tell me the rest of the movie isn't going to be like this.
It's better than The Last Airbender. Well, then again, so is being burned alive in a car crash.
Please stop crying. Listen to me. You still have the show. It's not like it doesn't exist anymore. I know.
This film is so boring. There is never a moment when the characters feel like real people.
Not only is it insensitive to cast white people as the heroes and Indians or Middle Eastern people as the villains, but it shows a complete ignorance about the project. It's embarrassing to have our leads look like this, when the extras look completely authentic.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 reasons The Last Airbender film is hated.
Sure, this film does have some production value behind it, but so did The Last Airbender, which this film often reminded me of as I was watching it.
I think hides in the tent and only comes out when he's forced to by Zuko's men. He's a scared little boy when he's supposed to be brave and daring, wanting no one to get hurt.
Hey, loud guy. Keep calm. There's no movie based on our franchise. Keep calm. There's no movie based on our franchise.
Oh, it's gonna go crazy.
Oh, boo. Title crawl. Yeah, but this one's like Star Wars.
Except bad.
If you've stuck around, I released a certain video saying that I was going to review the Last Airbender movie by M. Night Shyamalan, which I am, but before I do that, I want to talk about one of the best shows ever made and what problem I had with it, because not everyone is talking about these problems, and that's a problem in itself. So like this title suggests, there are a lot of people in this world that are watching this show not in the correct way, and they're not really wrong for doing that, but it exactly symbolizes the problem I have with nowadays TV shows, and I'm gonna correlate the two at the end of the video. But first, I must answer your pondering question: what fucking problem do you have with Avatar? Now before I do all that, I want to do the usual thing, and I say what I liked in this show. I'm going to start off by making a bold claim. I think Avatar is the best thing Nickelodeon has made. Period. So the good things. The show looks really good. The animation is beautiful. And even when it doesn't look good, it's at least trying to look good. The art in the finale is basically some of the best artwork I've seen in anything that is animated. The characters are all uniquely drawn and have very clear motivations to the ultimate goal of saving the world. Aang wants to forgive himself for running away and leaving the world to suffer. There's a good episode about that, by the way. Katara wants to prove her skills as a waterbender so her mum's death can have some meaning. Some really good episodes about that. Sokka wants to protect his family, his tribe, and show people like his dad how responsible he can be as a leader. Zuko wants to regain his honor and be treated like a true leader. Iroh just wants to keep Zuko out of trouble.
Why don't you enjoy a cup of calming jasmine tea?
I don't need any calming tea! I need to capture the Avatar!
And you quickly learn that Iroh is going to be one of your main characters in the whole show.
Zuko, remember that plant I thought might be tea?
You didn't.
I did. And it wasn't.
No!
Now the characters are great, and the show for the most part looks great, but this is not the only thing the show's about, not just this show, all TV shows. You also have to think about the story. Now the story for Avatar is written in a very peculiar way. It would be no exaggeration if you thought they wrote the ending first and made the complete story later. It really wouldn't. This, however, can really work in the show's favor. Most of the episodes consist of Team Avatar going to the season finale on Appa, but making a few stops on the way. Not only does this build up the tension for the final destination, this also shows you something. The show is just episodes with side quests that lead to an engaging finale. So when an episode is not fun, and its only purpose is to get closer to the finale, and there's not that much development or good writing on display, then that is what we call bad filler. And I say bad filler because you need filler episodes in a TV show. You need them. Without fucking question. A filler episode is designed to help side characters or the main character explore something else. So we get to know them a little bit more, you know, to distract ourselves from the main story. However, some of the filler episodes in this show are just filler episodes. That's all they are. I cannot, however, say this for Season 1. Season 1 is an example of this done well. Apart from the weak animation and the aspect ratio, this season is really good. Every episode has some meaning behind it. In The Deserter, Aang tries to firebend and has fun, but he ends up burning one of his friends and vows not to do it anymore. That is something he carries for the whole show. His arc in this season is to fucking grow up, whilst Zuko's arc is not to act so grown up and not to think he knows himself. The Storm is another good episode of the whole show. This is the episode that turned Season 1, as so many people say. Aang needs to forgive himself, and we get the perfect form of storytelling, pathetic fallacy. And Zuko gets a great backstory during this, when we thought we were already invested in him. The play-by-play between villain and hero is excellent. Aang's backstory, Zuko's backstory. Aang escapes the storm, Zuko escapes the storm. It's perfect. Even though the animation in this season isn't finished, I would not choose another episode of iCarly over this.
And suffering will be your teacher. I looked away.
You know what, let's do a side quest really quick. Let's actually talk about the elements in this show, because I have one quick thing to say. Waterbending sucks ass. I'm actually convinced that waterbending is the worst representation of the elements in the entire show. It's powerful, yeah, but it's not really used in creative ways. The fire is expertly drawn and hand-to-hand combat always works well with it. Earth looks really good and you can basically do anything you want with it. And this is why Toph is probably my favorite Team Avatar member. It does not get underused in the slightest. Waterbending is important to Katara, but for the most part, it's whack. When Katara is in combat, most of her skills will be able to push people with water or freeze them. This gets really boring. Now yeah, there are a few episodes where waterbending is actually sick, but those episodes are highly focused on Katara and her waterbending skills, whilst Toph does shit like this all the fucking time. And for those of you who are going to say, she's a healer, not a fighter. In Season 1, it is her dream to be a fighter. There's an episode devoted to that. Other characters like Iroh are also good. And Zhao mainly exists to attract the evil of Zuko. He's a bad guy. But we hate him because he hates Zuko, who is also a bad guy. There's an episode where guards with no personalities kidnap Iroh, and we are rooting for the bad guys to win, because we are emotionally invested in them. Which is not the case with... Corporal? A corporal. When I watched Blue Spirit, I already knew that Zuko would turn good later. Everyone did. It was obvious. I was just waiting for it to happen. And that journey is the best thing in Avatar. Which brings me to Season 2.
You want a show? I'll give you a show.
So Zuko and his uncle Iroh have been called wanted prisoners, and so they must associate themselves with a common folk to hide from the Fire Nation.
It's okay. They've hurt me too.
Zuko wants to achieve his goals in the previous season and regain his honor, and is upset when Iroh tries to convince him that Zuko's vision of honor and destiny makes no sense whatsoever. The best jokes and dramatic part of the season come from these two characters.
This tea is nothing more than hot leaf juice.
Uncle, that's what all tea is.
How could a member of my own family say something so horrible?
Azula is a dangerous foe to Zuko, a foe he has history with, a foe better than Zhao, a foe with traits and personality. The animation is also much better. Zuko gets to move his face a lot more now. Is that something he could do this whole time? Season 2 is probably the best season if it weren't for the fact that the good guys suck. You have to watch Team Avatar do the following things. The first episode is fine. The first episode is actually really good. The first episode perfectly builds upon the world we know today. It perfectly shows us what we should be thinking, what we should learn from Aang, and what the season will mostly be about. Aang's main arc in this season is to take a chill pill and learn how to control himself when he is most powerful from Guru Yoda. He has to accept the past and forgive himself by unlocking all his chakras. He has to learn how to be a better character, basically. Like, that's his arc, and that's fine. That's a great arc to have, especially for the main hero. He is really not allowed to lose it in this season. Then, after that amazing episode, you have to watch Team Avatar fuck around in a cave with hippies. With this monstrosity. It almost seems like they wrote Zuko and Iroh really well, and they were like, let's just have the heroes play hide and seek in a cave. Then they play tag in a swamp, and then we have another episode that doesn't matter. Oh, I must stop trying to run and just face trial. Okay, what about the big bad guy trying to kill the world? You think he's going to pause just to watch fucking Law and Order on television? The writers made the common mistake of thinking that these are characters we love, which we do. So it doesn't matter how good the story is. This mistake is more common than you think. If you still don't really understand, here are just a few examples of media that make this mistake. Avengers, Age of Ultron, the new X-Men movie, Stranger Things Season 3, The Good Place Season 3, most of Rick and Morty Season 3 and 4, Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon, Link, The Faces of Evil, the Star Wars prequels, the DCEU movies, Sonic 06, Halloween 4, 5 and 6, Game of Thrones Season 7 and 8, Annabelle Comes Home, the latest Family Guy seasons, every Terminator sequel after Judgment Day except Salvation. I could go on all fucking day. So no, these aren't good episodes. They're okay, but they aren't good. I binged watch this show, so I can't imagine how I might not respect it if I had to wait weekly just to see episodes like this. I would rather binge watch like, oh well, what a good episode, I will watch another one right away, instead of, ugh, this episode is boring, I want a good one for closure. Once we got to the halfway point, and when I watched Zuko alone, I thought to myself, wow, this show is really good.
Who are you? My name is Zuko, son of Ursa and Fire Lord Ozai, Prince of the Fire Nation and heir to the throne.
And I applauded at the end. You see, every season has like this one episode that tells you the rest of the show is not going to fuck around anymore. Like in season 1, it's the storm. In season 2, it's Zuko alone. And in season 3, it's the Day of Black Sun 2-parter. And after Zuko alone, like I said, the show just kept on being good from there. Appa got kidnapped, which created a fun little side arc and quest, which is shit I obviously love. Toph teaches Aang a new skill and is more charismatic and independent than the other members. A real first episode is her learning that she can have friends. She was raised in solitude and she is too independent at the point where it's unhealthy. Also, she is blind and this works well in humor and storytelling.
Why are feet coming out of it?
Those are his horns. I haven't seen him in a while, okay?
It looks just like him to me.
Thank you, I worked really...
Then they get to Ba Sing Se, where they fight Azula and her friends with unique fun abilities and personalities as well. There's a cool fight scene between Jet and Zuko, there are several good comedic moments, and you have a scene where Zuko is suspicious of this one girl's spying on him, but then learns that she just likes him. Zuko basically needs to take a chill pill in this season. Remember, chill pill, like I said with Aang, play-by-play, hero and villain, stuff that makes the show good.
I'm ready. I'm ready to face the Fire Lord.
I'm ready to face you. Are you ready to face him?
I need my honor back.
Then Zuko and Katara have a heart-to-heart when Zuko realizes he should be good. And I really thought this would be it. And then he threw some fire at Aang and joined the bad guys, and I was a little upset. But I realized that this was better for his character, because if he just turned good when he had nothing, it would not feel fulfilled. Him standing up to his dad when he pretty much has everything he ever wanted is probably the most moving scene in all of Avatar.
How can you possibly justify a duel with a child?
It was to teach you respect.
It was cruel!
Why don't you just do it now?
Because I know my own destiny.
Season 3 has the best animation we have seen so far. All the elements are fluid, and the characters' animations blend with the elements perfectly. I don't blame the show for not perfecting this in their first season. That would not be fair. But in this season, using the elements in creative ways just makes perfect sense. There's a cool play-by-play when Katara reunites with her dad and Zuko with his, really just to show how different they are. However, there are still problems in this season. First problem, we still have the same problem from the last season. They wrote the ending first again. We still have filler episodes, and yes, some of them are more part of the overall plot, but some of them still suck. I think it's cute that we get to see Aang go to a Fire Nation school, but this shouldn't be here. This is the final season, and Aang doesn't really learn that much from this episode. We actually didn't really need a recreation of Footloose. I'm not joking, this is literally Footloose. The Painted Lady is possibly the worst episode in the whole show. Katara halts the team's efforts of making it to the bad guy's castle just so she could help a small village of people. I get it. They should help people. Like, I get that. Like, that makes sense. because the ending is random and makes no sense, and Katara just for some reason has to spend most of the episode doing all of this in secret. You really couldn't convince Aang, the Avatar, to join you, the guy whose job it is to save people? Sokka's Master is actually a good episode, and so is Puppet Master. We need these episodes to improve the character's personality and learn more about them, especially since this is the final season. But the actual insult to the whole show, the episode about Aang having a nightmare. This episode is supposed to be the prologue before Aang supposedly fights the Fire Lord and has to lead an important battle. And Aang is obviously a little distraught. And how does this amazing artful show represent this in all of its subtlety and artistic prowess? Aang has a nightmare where he forgets to wear pants on the invasion. This is poo-poo. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Now, my favorite Avatar episode of all time has to be Embla Island Prayers, because this episode is a subtle mockery of the whole show. The episode can do many hints and clues at what it's trying to do without resorting to being absolute garbage.
I don't have time to stuff my face. I must capture the Avatar to regain my honor.
They make me look totally stiff and humorless.
I don't need any clothing teeth. I need to capture the Avatar.
Did Jet just die? You know, it was really unclear.
Also, it's pretty funny.
Your Zuko costume's pretty good, but your scar's on the wrong side.
The scar's not on the wrong side!
This episode is my favorite and one of the reasons why I like it, because it represents Aang's fear of a final battle subtly at the very end, and it actually doesn't fix his anxiety, it makes it worse, which is what we needed in that other piece of shit episode where it proves that you can't fix this problem. That other episode does have funny moments, but Aang's story in that episode is really bad. Aang still has to fight the Fire Lord, like that doesn't change, and you need to build up the finale, is what they should have been doing from the beginning, in small chunks in the beginning of the season, instead of all this other stuff. You could have still done all that other stuff. You could do it in small chunks if you want a lighter tone, because I am all for a lighter tone.
But your scar's on the wrong side.
How dare you assume mood? I don't need dark and gritty media when I'm wearing my Nickelodeon pajamas. Just give me a story that makes sense and is tonally consistent. So Aang gets truly worried when Zuko tells him of his father's true plan of Sozin's comet. Okay, why did he not tell Aang about this earlier?
I didn't think I had to.
Wait, what?
I assumed you were still gonna fight him before the comet.
You didn't discuss the plan? Speaking of comedy, the same season proves that you can have a dark, sad story with an important message at the end, and still have light-hearted moments that will always be funny. Some of my favorite episodes about Katara are in this season, and I like some of the episodes about Aang, but it really does feel like they didn't really know what to do with him. And then we have Fire Lord Ozai, the main villain, the big baddie. Now personally, I love Aang's arc in the second half. He basically just wants to find a way to stop the bad guy without killing him. Everyone, including his past selves, tell him to kill that dude, and Aang still won't do it. This is what makes Aang the true Avatar. This is what makes him special. He's not special just because he has tattoos and can do this. But still, I think this arc would have been so much better if Aang actually met the guy before doing this. Think about Ozai actually hurting Aang emotionally before their fight. And no, killing Harry Potter's trope machine doesn't count, like actually hurting him in a non-generic way. Then Aang would have a tougher decision to make, and when he makes the right choice, it would be much more special. I know pretty much nothing about Ozai except that he's evil, and that he doesn't like Zuko that much. And that's pretty much it. I at least knew Zhao. I hated that guy, but I knew his motivations and his past. That's all you really have to do. It wasn't really that hard. The show is good overall, it's great. There are too many good things for me to be too upset. This is one of the best shows ever made, but the reason I'm making this video is because we need more shows like this, and just pretending that the show is perfect and doesn't have a single problem is not gonna get us more shows like this. I think we should strive to make sure that a good animated show doesn't make the same mistakes whilst achieving the same level of quality. The show is still really good. We were at the peak of getting shows that understand what make them great. Think about most of the stuff Nickelodeon made that hasn't aged well, and that goes for Cartoon Network as well. Shows that go on until they literally can't anymore just lose their charm. Gravity Falls also understood this. If this show was still on, it would have lost what made it special. Regular Show and Adventure Time are now gone because of similar reasons, and I'm happy that Futurama got cancelled. Because look at the ratings on these shows. These shows are really good. If they continued for too long, they would not be this good. And I'm happy that we have shows that understand that when it's time for them to end, they should end. BoJack Horseman is the perfect example of a totally consistent show that structurally makes perfect sense. It's not perfect, but it ended when it should have done, and that's one of the reasons why the writing makes sense and fits in so well. We shouldn't watch new things from shows like Family Guy and Simpsons.
No, thank you.
Those shows have clearly lost their creativity long ago, and will go on until they literally can't. Rick and Morty's episode deal does seem a little much, but we'll just have to see how that show does. If you guys disagree with me, that's fine, but please remember, we want the same thing. We want a show just as good as Avatar. An animated show that doesn't waste our time. Like Clone Wars is back, yeah, and it's great. You know, it would be cool if we had a new animated show that actually was successful. Like, it's been a while, and I would actually love more. But just pretending that these past shows are perfect, just because there's not much competition, and just because it's good overall, isn't going to get us that show. It's just going to fuck up that way. We should go towards shows that know what makes them great, just like Avatar did, and we need to help it understand how it can achieve that goal. Avatar will always remain a great show, but it's not perfect. It is a little flawed. But overall, the show is really good, like I said before. And all we really need at this point is just a show just as good as Avatar, but without the dumb stuff. There'll always be dumb stuff. Like, you can't escape dumb stuff. Like, that's not possible, really. Even the best shows out there have bad episodes. It happens. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. We should go towards shows that know what make them great. Just like Avatar did.